Yeah, we have our share of shared experiences of lights out. So,
Hi, hi all.
I should we get started? Should you take
Yeah.
the show, Lars, to
Yeah, I was also welcome Alex from Victoria University in Uganda, Kampala. First time, I think, so we should just say
yeah,
hi to you.
great, welcome. And so these sessions are an informal discussion where we normally do some demos and pick a subject, and then it's open to ask questions and engage as much as you see fit. And yeah, to get the ball rolling this time, Lars has said that he's gonna show his struggles with doing complex UI, and if there's any time left after that, I will show a new feature called qualified associations.
I wonder if that is time, if you have a fixed time for that, Hans, or it's not that long. I think maybe you should start, because I'm afraid my things might drag out into, as I said before, some of you joins to discussions, but also face palms, like what is this guy doing? So maybe we should take the things that are easy to get done first, if that is what yours are.
Yeah, absolutely. We can do that. So let's go. And I'm gonna.
But also then, is there anyone that has that knows that they want to ask questions? Let's just set the agenda, because I think we've used to a tight group, and sometimes we don't need to introduce ourselves, but as everyone maybe knows. But I don't think Alex in Victoria University maybe have seen Hans, although I think he knows who he is.
Yeah,
So
we
Hans is.
actually met when I was.
Oh yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
they have met.
Good. Yes. All right. So please go ahead, Hans.
Yeah. So qualified associations are basically a thing that has been in the OCL standard, but we never bothered to implement. And what they help you with is to simplify access in the other end of an association. They are sort of drawn this way. There is a box next to if there is a qualification definition for this association. That doesn't mean that the association doesn't work just as it has been before. So you can follow this link from here to multi-value pick, and that's a multi-link. The qualification is, however, single link. So that helps you to reduce the values in this link to a specific qualifier. And how do we define what that qualifier is and what it should match? Well, in this target class, there's only one attribute, so there's not much to argue about. We must qualify matching attribute 1, I guess. And the pattern is like this, that you define a method starting with qualify underscore, and then you say what end association you want to make a qualifier for. Having done that, I also need to say which, this might be too small, but which parameters that goes into the qualifier. It can actually be many parameters, but in this case it's a string with the parameter name q.
Yeah.
And in the implementation, I can then do pretty much whatever I want. In this case, I took value store all instances and select them where the attribute 1 equals q. And that would make a list, a collection of value store objects. So since the qualifier logic needs a single link, a single return, I end it with the operator first. So that means that I return just one value store object. And of course, just as I did here, I could have used this expression wherever I wanted one of the value store items that matched the string Q. But the benefit is that when I have the qualification defined like this, I can use that in the UI or anywhere like so, that I just say what is the name of the association, multi-value pick, and then I use the brackets to say that I want to qualify. And then I can send in a value, like some string in this case. So that's a value from the thing object that I have on screen also. And then I will show the external ID of that value store item. I chose to do the external ID just to make sure that it differs from the sum string that we send in. And if I were to run that, I would get something like, yeah, first let's see what value stores values there are. So I have these 5 A, B, C to D. And if I then view this UI, I can see that if I were to change the value, the sum string of this thing to Q, that is nulled out. There's no answer. If I say it's A, it's external ID 10.2. So this seems to work, that this expression here actually qualifies what is shown in this field. And that's a good thing in many ways to simplify the code, because this OCL expression is then much fewer characters than if I would have to repeat the qualification to get the value store object that I needed. Of course, there's nothing stopping me from doing more complex things in these methods. So I could, for example, go like value store ps eval to send something to the database instead, to fetch a specific object given a qualifier. I can also add qualification methods that take multiple arguments if that's something that I want. But the important thing is that there's only one item returned. And also to stress that this is actually a part of the UML standard that we have previously omitted, but that we now added. There's also actually a default implementation of the qualification. So one can do without doing any methods like these. And also, I should stress that when you do this method, make sure that it is a query, meaning that it's available from OCL. It doesn't have to be, but any sane person would use it as a query, meaning that it shouldn't have any side effects, create objects, or change data in any way, but it could. And it must be a query in order to use it from OCL. If it's not a query, and if it would have side effects, you could still use it, but only from action language, EAL. So that's important. What I meant to say was that we wanted to we also have the default implementation, assuming that if you send in an integer, we will just assume that that is a qualifier for the number of the item in the association, meaning that if I send in 2 to some int, I will render this here. So in this expression, I just do self multi-value pick bracket and then some int, and then it will return the object at that position. That means that this construct, self multi-value pick and some integer value, is equal to multi-value pick and a somewhat construed at. And then we had the issue with are they 1 based or 0 based? So it must be at 0 2. So that is much less nice looking towards that. So these are new features that I think will add value. Any obvious questions on things that I've just skipped over and missed, Lars?
Yes, a few questions. It's someone else, or am I hearing myself? Maybe. Okay, never mind. So one thing I wondered, how come can I still navigate the link and get multiple results?
Yes.
It's just this when I qualify, then it kind of turns immediately into one.
Okay. Correct. So it's just a bracket operator that kicks in the qualification. So the link is just a link like anyone else, like any other link. But this symbol, and we draw it as a box. And actually in the standard, it's not clear because the standard isn't aimed for execution. It's just aimed for description. So it's not clear how the qualification should be made and how you would know what it would qualify on. But that's what we do with these methods. We can both decide what to qualify on because it's not obvious. If value store all of a sudden had more attributes, which one is it that you qualify? And that could be arbitrary.
Right.
So that's why we need the methods.
So this word qualify, it sounds so advanced, but it's like a lookup feature.
Yes.
Or index thing. That can be anything.
Correct.
Yes,
so it's just a reduced to 1.
So it's an easy way to have that you can implement in any language. Basically, now an extra feature you can hook on, like in C#, and then you say something that looks it up in a table, or that's what the feeling you get. Okay, I get that. Then. And then, so then I need to ask, this box, it shows up when the method is there, or is it like a setting on it?
Okay, yes, good question. So if this method wouldn't match the pattern, and since I have 2 because I implemented one that was for integer as well, once nothing matches, it will say that the box will not render, and also the expression won't work. At least this expression won't work. It will say that there's system string does not conform to system int 32, and that's because it tries to default back to the int 32 thing. That's a default one. But
so does this?
Sorry.
Yes. So does this also mean that one can have more than one method?
Correct.
So you can have a whole set of them. I didn't get that
So,
right away. So that's really cool.
So you can also, I think, like qualify on two things if that's if
So the method it matches on the methods like parameters to find which method to use. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly, just like overloads.
Because my question then, the next one, were like, but if there's only one, why isn't it like built in so that it's a setting on the end of the, but I guess that this will be much more helpful if you can have more than one. Okay, I understand. So, I guess what one would, yes, please, someone else.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
So previously we could have perhaps achieved this similar functionality with derived associations. That's kind of the first part of the question.
Yeah.
And then the second part is, does this work with, this works with persisted associations, presumably transient associations, and what about derived associations?
Yes.
Eric, that was my next question, so thank you.
Sorry.
So this function is shouldn't really care what kind of association it is. It's just the qualifier needs to take care on how it looks up the value. But this is just a shorthand to describe that following this link, and basically one could trick one's end user or developer to return something really out of place. It doesn't have to follow the association at all. It can do whatever it likes, pretty much, just returning the one value. So that's, if it's a derived association, it might not even derive anything, but then you can't use the multi association. You can always use the qualify, because that will fall back to this method and look up a value for you. So it's pretty much a neat thing, language construct to get access to one object based on some keys that you have. I don't know if I confused everyone with saying that, but it just dawned on me that, yeah.
Can I follow up, Derek? Are you going more? Yes, please continue, Derek. Then I have other things.
No. I'm done. I was just going to say, I think I'll just have to sort of play with it and satisfy myself that I understand what's going on.
Yeah, so that's probably the best way to do it. Let's see.
I wanted to add, Hans, so this is not something executed by default in persistent storage. So it's not a OCLPS expression, it's an OCL expression, right?
Exactly. And that means that you can use the class.pseval to actually make it persistent storage. So you can reach into the database to fetch the single object that matches your thing, if that's what you want.
But then, of course, as always, we need to say, if you do that, it won't be subscribed at least if you don't add a subscription expression in that PSEval, then you will not find it. On the other hand, if you know what you're doing and you don't do this in 100 places in your model, only for the performance intense ones, it could be a good way then to fetch an object right out of the database.
Yes.
Great. So you create it by creating the methods, and then it's separate methods because you can basically overload it many times.
Yes.
And it is the lookup feature, and it's not default in persistent storage, but there's no restriction on to use it on other like derived attributes and so. Is that a summary that makes sense?
Yes, I would say that's a good summary.
And this is a user that has been asking for this for months or years.
Yes.
Finally, it's there.
Yes, because it was in the predecessor of MDriven, the Bold framework. This was available, but Bold framework didn't actually have OCL, as I recall it. Maybe David will correct me, but I think it was a predecessor to OCL that was used there. Yeah. Okay.
But this user at least has seen that this is a crucial part of life.
Yeah, in order to move ahead with more important things. Let's see. Okay. It was called, I typed it wrong. Yes, so let's not get stuck on this then. Everyone can play with that as they see fit, and report any deviations from the standard. And of course, it's documented in the wiki, so it's just to look it up under the name qualified. So in the standard, it's called qualified associations.
So I can just ask, is there any other questions before I mention a few other things and then we switch to my UI struggles? No, not like that. Okay, then I can, no one has said something, just raise your hand, in the UI, go to that. Then I can just mention other things that we are working on. We're working on a better first main site for MDriven. That will be more interesting, we hope, to find out things. We're also integrating and we work really hard now, several people, on upgrading the portal. And what I hope to bring to every one of you from that you might find useful is a better automatic deployment to cloud services. I don't think we should expect that until about 6 months from now, but there should be more automated deployments, either to whatever you want to pick, but also better ways to get a deployment, for example, in Docker containers. We're also working on a general improvement, of course, as we have done for a long time, to the wiki content. But we're also going to, I think within a couple of months, we're going to have an AI that is have access to an updated wiki at all times. So, and it seems really promising, the ability to ask questions from the wiki content, and that help will then be available in the designer probably. So you will be able to ask it straight away. How do I do this and this? So for example, how do I maybe make a lookup thing or use a qualifier in my project? And the AI should be able to give you good answers, straight, curated. I mean, you know how AIs talk, but with actual direct content coming out of the wiki. So that's like projects going on in MDriven. Okay. Any questions about that, or you want to see my UI struggles now?
Can just mention that even if we show the AI integration before with the ChatGTP client, that what we're talking about now is a much beefed up version that using the RAG strategy, meaning retrieval augmented generation, focusing on the wiki, collecting things from the wiki and curating things as it fetches them to reduce the number of clicks and page scans that you have to do as a human.
Yeah, I should also mention that we have introduced on the wiki, and it will be soon on the main page too, what we call global search, which will also then be feeding this AI. The global search indexes also our YouTube channel and the blog. So if you search now in the wiki, you will, it's faster, but you will also be able to get direct links to our YouTube channel. So if you search for something, you can see straight away, oh, it's in this YouTube episode that is 3 years old, because of course no one was able to find it really. But we have, as what's that called? A script. Yeah, exactly. So if you search for something, you will also get links straight to the YouTube channel. So we think that is a good improvement, and this will then feed into the AI. So the AI will also be able to find everything that has been said in the YouTube, both instructional YouTubes, but actually these ones too, where we demonstrate and talk about things. So we think this will help a lot when it comes to actually finding useful help for everyone.
Yeah, you're gonna share your screen, Lars?
Yeah, I can do that. Let's see, I hope it works. Sometimes it just won't. Okay, so it seems like it's working at least.
Yep.
So this is actual. I hope it's not too big. I tried to connect to another computer and show that whole screen. So this is a system that is live and that I'm working on with our tools to improve. And so it's like an intranet for a company. So this is how it looks. And some of these pages in this system are just straight up old view models. Some are new view models with placing containers, and some are hand coded with HTML with data binding from us. And then this is Swedish, so just ignore and look at the pictures or something. So, but I'm that's, I don't think that's important. This is like news channel and stuff. And then there's one-time reporting, and this is how it looked. This is hand-coded HTML. So this is what we call a full page replacement. And this is what I don't want to have anymore. So you have this one, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that it's so time-consuming to change anything, because it breaks if you change anything, and then you have to
Like normal HTML do.
Exactly, right? Like any other, right? And we don't want any other, we want it better. So, but this was created before we had placing containers. That's why we had to do it this way. So let's go back here, and then I've recreated it. I took this one, and then I made this one, kind of similar, because we don't want the users to have to learn anything new. So the first version of this new one, I want to be exactly the same, basically. What one can see is that it's much easier with placing containers to follow along what's the place. I'll show you that soon, but the placing containers there, it makes it easier to structure the data and get the data out in the right place. But you can also do a lot of trickery that wasn't really available to be done before. Let's, for example, look at this one. There's an edit button there, and when you click it, it shows this where you edit this link. So this link will go to this place, right? And then as an admin, I want to edit it. So I have this button here so I can, this button only shows if I'm like the admin of the site. So I implemented that one. And it is available the same way in this other one. But then they had to do a lot of like trickery here, and they added something special in HTML, and it was all difficult. I'll show you how this was done. And then there's a button behind there. So it became easier to do this one. It's just like, yeah, just show this one and edit it. Oh, nothing to it. And a lot of things are easier, but as usual with complex UI, it's not simple. So this button, for example, is not the same button as that one. It's actually two buttons, but only one is showing at a time. So if you look at it in the view model, it's two different ones. And then this one is this like reddish because it says not here it says not complete. So it's like, please note that this is incorrect. And then it says here, this is not complete. But then when I click it, I want, now it's like in edit mode. So I don't want it to have that color. And then I want all these other things. And then I want this to turn red if it's something wrong in this one. So if I put the price in here, I think it's like, now it's happy. So now that turned into a different icon. And if this is unhappy, then it's red again there. And then this lights up here that this is incomplete. I can click here and say, do you want to delete it? Yes. And I can also click on this one, and I open up an edit box with this. I can send along a PDF. I don't know what's in these PDFs, but it doesn't matter really. It's uploading it. Okay. And now it shows this little thing here that I've attached a document to it. Okay, that was like a summary. And then I have a complete summary down here. And then this one is now enabled. So I can say, go ahead and invoice this. Or I can undo.
Redo doesn't mean redo. It means ready.
No, ready. Yeah, ready. And this is undo the ready. But you see here, it's incomplete, right? So, yeah. But this actually sets like a Boolean. So if I set this Boolean here in my debug mode, you see these changes. So these are just actually triggering the change of state here. Okay, so how I've been working on this then? Well, so this is on a publicly available server. I mean, it's open to the internet. So here is what I've done here is that I couldn't start it while you're watching because I need to input passwords and stuff, and I don't want that to get into the recording. So but what I have done is I've pressed this button here to Turnkey Live Editor. And then I've started this Turnkey server. And this Turnkey server is actually talking straight to the publicly available MDriven server. So it's a bit sluggish when you do things here because it actually has to talk to the MDriven server over the internet. But this server is local. And the changes that I make to this view model is local to this machine, but it's not reloading the whole echo space. It's just reloading this view. So that's why it's very fast to change the view. And I can also use the system. So here you see, these are all the placing containers that it makes up this first screen. So if I turn off the edit, you might, here it is, right? You recognize that one from what I showed before. And here you have these two buttons. And I can go to the old one, I think, at least. But you can see now it's slow because it actually has to talk over the internet. I think that's the reason, at least. Yes, there it shows up. But here I don't think I see anything because this is custom HTML. So I don't have the ability to change it. I have all the data here, but I don't have the ability to change this because it's custom HTML. So let's go back and then go to this new one. So here it is available for me to change right away. But it's not like you can't do everything in this one because there's still CSS involved. You can put some styles in the designer, yes, but there's still tricks that needs to happen in CSS, which I think is unperfect, but it's like, yeah, it's not so good, but it's like still, 10 times better than it would have been if I didn't have this, but it's still not as good as I would like it to be. So you have to separate, right? Because this is like, there's still parts of it that is as bad as traditional development. And I don't want that even. But anyway, so what I have here is, I have a CSS, and I think I might also have found a bug, Hans, because if I open the CSS, yeah, let me show you more here. Where is it? It's here. So here you have live edit, and then you can, the server setup is here. So here is where you connect your local turnkey server to the cloud, the MDriven server on the internet. And these are just from the cloud connection settings in the designer. So where I upload my model.
So the MDriven server
then,
is where all the data is, and it's important that it's the same model as you have locally.
So then I start it up, and now I'm running it locally. And then here on Asset TK Sync, you have access to all the special settings for all the views. So here you can see all the view assets, and there's a lot of views in this system, and some of them have their own special CSS. And here's the one that we had. So that one had its CSS, but this new one also has a CSS. And if you click in the sync button here, it means if the CSS changes, it will immediately reload the view. So if I go here, and then I go to time reporting, and I guess it's slow because it's far away, or is there something wrong with it? Doesn't look healthy. Oh, maybe I've lost the data. Have I? Because that's happened before. But here it is. I come to a view that doesn't have a root object, and that happens. So if I then go to my editor, another one, and let's say I'll change the height of this one. I think it's like show, is it this one? Let's make that 400 pixels high. Yeah, so you saw that had effect immediately. I changed the height, the CSS. So this one here is in here. Let's see where it is. So I have, this is a SharePoint URL. This is the edit button.
Yeah, you can just point out on the orange dot there, right?
Yeah, so there's that's that one, this one, and here we go down to the. I was looking for Yeah, so I don't know why sometimes there's no dots on all of them. Sometimes they all show up and sometimes they don't. But I was going to go here, I think it is.
Maybe it's in the nesting. Yep.
Yeah, but I haven't fully understood all the details. So, but here, yeah, so this is this one here. We can see it. If I click over here, it will show that yellow dot there. So this is the show, and then I have another one that is not showing on screen now, that is hide. So these two buttons here is what makes it work. So now if I save here again, I put back 40 here.
Now you have 400 on the one above, please.
Okay,
Yeah.
there. So 40. So that reloaded that one, and now it's small again. The interesting thing was that if I edit this CSS file from Notepad++, it updates immediately, but if I do it within here, it doesn't. So I think it was here, right? So if I put that in and save, it's not reloading, but it's actually reloading in Notepad++. So I thought that was interesting.
Okay.
I don't know why.
So it has to do with
the in Visual Studio.
Yeah, Visual Studio puts a lock on the file, and the Notepad++ has some way to circumvent that lock. I'm not sure how they do that, but that's an issue with the Visual Studio, that it hard locks all the files.
I just wanted to show it to people, so that was unexpected to me. So anyway, we have that there, and if you then go into this one and we click on this, you have the it's not here, because I see here you have a style reference. So this is a style reference that is used here. So what have I done then? Tried to do this. Well, you can use it here, right? So you can just click here and use your application while you're doing it, which is a huge bonus, of course. And here, what's shown here is all the placing containers that match exactly here. So if I change here, it will immediately show here. So for example, if I have start date and this date, and I flip this around to this, then it reloads immediately, and I see how it's done there. So far it's like super nice. And I can also bring up the whole.
Just a short note, I saw why you didn't see the style reference, that you because you had a specific column defining the style.
That's true. So I can dynamically change it.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can get back to that one. So it was here. Yes, I have style here. Oh, that's correct. I have this style expression. Oops, I want to zoom in because I want to change the style depending on if it's an arrow or not. So if I remove that now, this one goes that. If I go down there, this one is red and this one is gray. And how does that happen? Well, I have this style expression here that says if it's not complete, then show with error, otherwise show OK. So depending on the state of the system, this different style expression. So this means with error in Swedish. So this is show with error, and the one above is show OK. So they have different expressions. But here is we're starting to get to what I find tough, and that is here you can see it's like a button. That's okay, but then I found out like, it's not working because I want to set the white space to normal, this setting, because I want it to wrap properly. And let me show you what I want. So if I make it smaller, soon I want this to, well, okay, it didn't. Okay, so it's not working. That's here, now it's working. Okay. So here you see you get a wrapping of this one. That's what I wanted to get to. And here it should wrap. So it's not working here, but it is working there. And I just find it very tiresome. And please come up with a better solution. That one has to work so hard on targeting, because saying important doesn't work if everything is important. So I mean, if everything is like, yeah, it's important, well, like, this is more important, and like this is super important. I mean, where will it end? But then I want to point out how you. So in addition to this, one can click on the dev tools from this one. So this is the dev tools of this browser. So you can then take this one and go here. It's like, okay, how is it rendering it? Well, it's rendering it like this, right? So this is a button, and then you have a span, and that span is probably the text here, right? It says this one. So you can see also up here now that I'm pointing to it. So the way, at least I found, is that, yeah, you click here, and then you can copy the selector. CSS selector.
Okay, that's good. I didn't know that. I'm just trying to follow it up the hierarchy.
Exactly, and that's pain. So I thought, and I actually asked ChatGPT, I'm in pain, I said ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT said, oh, I'll help you. I didn't, but okay, so you can go here, and then you paste the entire selector. And then it's like, whoa, that is pain. And another way, right? But then you can just remove some of it. So you remove, and then you can say, it's like, what is like kind of still makes sense to keep? Well, I would say from here, at least, would be good. But you see there, I had actually taken a bit longer. So let's go back, and then, so you can just pick from these ones of what makes sense from your perspective to keep, and to be specific enough to give you that, because I didn't really want to include, how should I say, view model specific things too much, and I wanted it to follow all along. So I don't want these things that says like ends child, that's horrible, and I don't want this placing container stuff, because that's like generated. So you go like this, and then you yeah, maybe this would work, and then you put your styling at the end. And so you could say it's like background color yellow, and see and save, and then it reloads immediately, and we can go and say it's like, okay, but nothing happened. Okay, why didn't it happen? And so oops, sorry, I'm having trouble switching. There's one, and then we want to bring up the where's the debugger? I don't know where it is. Let's see if we can, yeah, there it is. And then, so unfortunately I lost the place now, but I can still quite quickly go back here, and then I can go here and see. It's like, okay, that one has effect. We can see that one, but I guess somewhere else here we can find our new CSS style that didn't have any effect, and then we can try to figure out why it didn't have any effect, because it's crossed over here, right? It's like this, like it's crossed over. We could also go and see on the calculated one for this one. So we can go here, because we know we were setting background color. Where is background color?
You can filter on the top. I usually just fill in background, and then and depending on,
didn't seem to,
I need to select the correct node in the HTML to, and then it updates.
I thought I did by this one, but maybe I didn't well enough.
So you,
Maybe I
yeah,
targeted this one.
you target the ng binding. Yeah. No, so it should be down.
So we don't need to solve this problem right
Mm.
now. What I wanted to point out was the struggles with these, and I want to find an even better solution. I want to show you a little bit more of what I did here, because it's interesting, some other things here. If we make this bigger now, you'll see that I have these on top. So the idea here is that it should actually look exactly like a grid. Now I have the problem that these are on top of each other, but here you can see it's better at least. And my idea was that how do I make this up here connect to this? And the only way I found is that you make them independent of what's in them. And there are ways to do that. So to point out some things here, no, I can't see it because it's here. And then I go here. So on top here, I have these ones. If I click on them, you see the yellow dot there. This is the header. And the header, I've created a style reference called flex basis 0. Because it turns out that if you set the flex basis to 0, it ignores the content of the column and instead only bases it on how much space it should have depending on the grow size here. So it says grow 2. That means that it should have 2 out of something. And then I have, this is same here for 2 for this one. And then the specifications has grow 4. So how this works is just it sums up all the ones in one block and says, okay, so the total is 20, and then 4 is that much of this one. So, but this is, if you set flex basis an ordinary way, it actually looks at the content, which is very good in almost all cases, except if you want something here to exactly match what's below, because then it will be completely skewed this way, right? These will not turn into columns. So with flex basis 0, which I had, unfortunately, that wasn't built-in feature. I think at least that's a question for you, Hans. But I haven't found it. So I just created this one, and then I thought flex. Where is it? So here, if there is a, if it has flex basis 0 in it, what's all this then? Well, because if you just have flex basis 0, it doesn't have enough like selector value to actually target it properly. So I used that trick of getting the selector before, and then I put this here and got flex basis 0. And then I had to put important in, of course, because it's stupid. All right.
Yeah, that's probably something we should add into the standard then to ignore content.
Exactly, because I think ignore content is a better way to put it than flex basis 0.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, and I've done the same then, because if you scroll down, I've done the same then here. So these ones are also flex basis 0, so that they all follow. And of course, then one could say, like, hey, but this is a perfect place for CSS grid instead. And you would be right in some cases, except I want the icons to fold. And then I want it to not at all be that at this moment, because here I don't want them to be flex basis. Sorry, I don't want CSS grid. I want flexbox features with things that fold together, because here you see I've dropped the header because on a mobile device this doesn't work at all. So here I want it to be compact and oh, now I made a mistake. I removed that, but now I see. I had before, and now I see my mistake. Ah, silly. I want these 3 to be the top, and these 3 here should fold underneath on the mobile, but not underneath this one. It should be underneath here. So And this can all be done. And I also want to point out, I think I put it here. Yeah, so if you put a variable on your view model, you can actually see there, you see how it updates? This is actually a variable in the view model. So this one here, if I click there, you can see it's here, yeah. This is V client screen width, and there's also height, but it's not as interesting. So this way, I can see that you get an updated thing. So you can do things actually on the server right from the view width. And that could be used, for example, to switch the rendering ways. So one thing that I've been thinking about here is maybe I should have two completely different sets of renderers. So one that has this on top and uses a standard grid. And then when the user pushes it together, at some degree, you cut off and do it differently. What I've done here, I've just used as a standard way of putting a media query that hides it. So here you see this is the header that says display none. And then I have one the other way around. All right, that was because we're out of time, but that was my story about these things. I think it shows both huge power of placing containers, because this is not a simple UI to get into one piece, but it also shows how difficult it is to really build a fully flexible multi-layer, because you can see here, if I zoom out, there's all this data in the top, and then there's these ones that can fold together. That's this one. And then for each one of these ones, you also have then the time rows. And the time rows needs to be editable inside, like here. And these ones needs to fold and make sense to the upper ones. But of course, at least it's very, very easy to update things, because it just happens automatically with all the things. So if I run it, I can actually have two, the new design and the old design. And if I change one, the other one changes immediately. So even though it's very difficult, I can't imagine how much more difficult it would have been if I didn't have this. But questions the last couple of minutes?
So I can just comment on the V client width thing. That of course, as you showed, Lars, the media queries for CSS is how you normally do it, but that forces you to be client side, and sometimes you just want to be server side because there are rules on the server that you want to react to screen size. So one might argue that it's a terrible inefficient way to have the client tell the server that the screen size changed, but it's really, really good. And it makes things so much easier. So why not?
And so it's a subscribable value. So, but I don't know, what would you, should I try to do two different tables here? One with
so I think the main problem is that the one that's ordering how it should look doesn't know anything about how HTML is done and how much pain it is to do it. So as soon as you follow the one that makes the demands, there will always be new demands. So I guess one trick would be to start saying, oh, that will be hard. Can't we do it simpler?
Yeah. But there's a lot of things we want to build into this view later.
Yes.
There's a whole review process of time reports, and there will be visual indicators. And I find it very cool, though, how one can make icons, because this is a font, and then you can just change the text. So these buttons can actually change dynamically just because I changed the string, and the strings are just calculated in the view model, and then so it's really neat. Like this one I can show here. So where was that? I just saw it. It said error something. I thought. Yeah, so here, this one says, if it's not ready, then say error. And if it's the other thing, it says text snippet. And these are actually the names of the icons. So with the right font, you can just give it a text and it will turn into an icon. I didn't know that was like a built-in feature now, but it's really handy.
Yeah. So super thanks. It's good to see some reports from the field then that there's actual work being done.
And don't be afraid to use placing containers and try those things out, because I think users will really be happy to see a more beautiful UI built. And then we'll see what we can do to make it even easier. So I'm sure.
And this is the only way to actually get real use cases and point out where the limitations are. And we don't want the full complexity of no manageability at all and just a prompt where you have CSS and HTML, because even if that might feel like total happiness, maintenance wise it's nightmare, and that's what everyone knows. So it's almost impossible to maintain. So we want something that is actually quite easy to maintain. That's the important thing.
I think I need also, I said beforehand, right? Will there be any face palming here? And now then I saw Alexandra join, who is like the with design and CSS and stuff. So have you been face palming anything, Alexandra? It's like, what is he doing?
I should say that yeah, you made a great work putting it into the placing containers, but yeah, the pain in your I saw the pain in your eyes when you looking at the CSS and all the selectors. That might be a little bit more better, but still it's it's nice to see that we are moving towards the placing containers more and more. So yeah, it's great work. Yeah.
I think what I would like to see is ability to maybe, if we still need CSS, which we do to some degree, is a combination of, and you have thoughts of this, Hans, is to combine the styling in CSS, but more ability to target things in your view model with rules that directly go into that thing, rather than being having to find the selectors.
Yes, so we want to see CSS as a generated thing and not as primarily manually managed thing.
Yeah, that's a good way.
Yeah, very good.
All right,
thank you very much. See you in a month if we haven't scared you away.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Good evening.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Have a nice evening.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.